All right, it's tier set time. Let's give a quick run over. First and foremost, we need to obviously discuss the look. Transmog is the absolute most important part about new tiers. And I got to be honest, this Voidy Ninja Warrior look looks really cool. I like the dreadlocks ponytail thing going on, made out of chains with the nice spikes at the end. Yeah, all things considered, really happy. The physics on it is a little crazy. You can get like little fucking helicopter hair going on. It's a bit janky. But all in all, really, really cool. But the meat and bones, we've got to get to that. Let's talk about the actual tier set bonuses themselves. So traditionally, your tier set bonus will be given based on spec. So it'll be arms, pro, and fury. Whereas now they're going to be based off the hero talents themselves and then be augmented based on the spec that's using said hero talents. That's still only a max of 3 different tier sets for your class. But they have much more impact and they don't run into the design challenge of it might be really good for one hero talent, but kind of trash for the other one. The other, quite the opposite, in fact. It's allowing both hero talents to potentially shine and the specializations kind of feeds into that, right? So we'll start off with Colossus, the 2-piece. Demolish damage increased by 20%. Demolish already hits like an absolute freaking truck, so extra damage on that is going to be always nice. And then your crit damage of your abilities is increased by up to 20% on targets affected by Demolish for 10 seconds based on the number of Colossal Might stacks consumed. It is important to note that the Colossal Might is basically irrelevant because it's always going to be 10 stacks pretty much. Well, unless if you really try hard, you're always going to have the full max stacks. The only exception to this is in your opener, obviously. As for the 4-piece, this is where it diverges a little bit. It'll be based on Mortal Strikes for arms and then Shield Slams for protection. But both of them mean that after hitting Demolish, your crit chance of these 2 abilities, Mortal Strike and Shield Slam, increase by 100%. And then Shield Slam crits and then Mortal Strike crits respectively all increase your Rend and Deep Wounds damage by 100% for 8 seconds. But keep in mind, the second part of this, the second sentence is irrelevant of the first. So you don't even need to hit Demolish. Just all Mortal Strike crits will apply Deeper Wounds, which is this buff for the extra 100% to your bleeds. So to give you an idea, we're in Colossus on the PTR, and I'm going to not hit Demolish intentionally because I want to hit that crit. And Deeper Wounds, you can see the buff up here, so it's going to be increased by 100%. Now, it is also important to note as well that this doesn't stack in duration. So when I do hit Demolish, which I'll do now, I get 2 Mortal Strike crits. I can do both in a row. You'll see it starts at 8 seconds. And then as soon as I hit it again, it's only ever going to go back up to the 8-second mark, as you saw. So this is going to lead to a little bit of a strict opener, especially in Mythic Plus and AoE. But it sounds really cool because it means that you're going to be able to try and game the system to extend that length. It means you'll go in, you're going to blast all your cooldowns, you've done your Warbreaker, you've done your Demolish, and so you know you've got 2 Mortal Strikes guaranteed to crit, which means this buff can be gamed a little bit. So you'll then open up with Cleave because you want to get Rend on everything. But Deep Wounds on everything. But then you'll Mortal Strike, Cleave Overpower, Cleave Overpower, Cleave Overpower. Then right as Deeper Wounds is about to fall off, you'll Mortal Strike a second time, Cleave Overpower, Cleave Overpower. So you can almost get the full 16 seconds. And that combines in conjunction with things like your Thunderous Words, where you get this nice window of increased bleed damage from Thunderous Roar. So Thunderous Words synergizes really well here. Combine that again with conjunction with Bloodborne, and it even starts calling into question Skull Splitter and the viability potentially of having this back in the fold as well. Because it means that during that 8 seconds and potentially even 16 seconds, if you use your cooldowns and after you Demolish, you're going to have potentially up to 18 seconds. And of that 18 seconds, it's not going to make Deep Wounds tick faster, but it's going to make all your bleeds within that Deeper Wounds buff tick faster, which means you're getting more ticks of Rend and Deep Wounds at 100% increased damage, if that makes sense. So Skull Splitter genuinely really comes back on the menu in a big way. And it'll be interesting to see if that does get to fall into place and actually be a relevant ability. But time will tell. I'm certainly no theory crafter. But that's Colossus, looking really good, given that Arms is already our best spec for Mythic Plus currently, and likewise Prot is running Colossus. This only further doubles down on already really strong specs. So I think this is going to be, if I had to hedge my bet, I would say this is probably the strongest of the 3 tier sets thus far. But I digress, we still need to at least have a look at the other ones. So Mountain Thane. The 2-piece Thunderblast will have a 35% chance to call down 5 ionizing strikes on affected targets, and it deals some nature damage. Cool. Nature damage is all, the theme of the whole Mountain Thane anyway. There's a few hero talents that help boost nature damage and stuff like that, so that's always nice. And then the 4-piece ionizing strikes deal more damage and have a 20% chance to grant a charge of Thunderblast. This is probably the least thematic and very underwhelming thus far. Again, all subject to change. But I find that the 35% chance on Thunderblast really doesn't kind of proc that much. Maybe it's not working correctly on the PTR at the moment. But felt like it was very rare. And it's also important to note that, one, the 5 ionizing strikes don't each contribute their own 20% chance for each individual strike. It's holistically as a whole. So you're not like, as long as you've got 5 targets, you're pretty much almost guaranteed to be proccing this extra charge of Thunderblast. Not how it works, unfortunately. It's only based on the 20% chance just from casting the Thunderblast and hitting with one cast of the ionizing strikes, if that makes sense. And not all Thunderblasts are obviously going to proc it anyway, so it's a bit of a lackluster from throughput as well. And most importantly, getting this free proc of the Thunderblast doesn't actually impact its cooldown. So it already has a 4-second internal cooldown anyway, so you're going to be waiting for that. So all it will do is provide you that extra charge of Thunderblast, but you can't use it again immediately. So you're not going to have situations where you'll be able to go, oh my god, I'm about to Thunderblast 5 times in a row, and it's all just doing lots of damage and that kind of thing. You won't have that kind of cool thematic moment to it. It only applies a new charge for you, and you're still waiting the 4 seconds anyway. And sure, there's enough to be at least said the way it's not going to be as imperative, because you don't need to worry about the extra charges, because you want to be doing your full rotation to ensure your meat cleaver's been used up and chewed up nicely. But there's at least enough to be said that, in conjunction with the fact that it feels a little bit underwhelming and it doesn't really resolve any of the AoE issues that Fury has, you're kind of sitting in this awkward position where it's not really going to be used in Mythic Plus, especially compared to how powerful Arms and Colossus is looking. And then even in single target raid, I mean, you're going to be competing with Slayer. We'll have to touch on Slayer, but Mountain Thane is probably my biggest loser for the Warrior tier set thus far. But hey, that's just me. We'll go on to Slayer anyway. Time will tell. There's plenty of time for adjustments and things to be made. Slayer. Now, the 2-piece execute damage increased by 20%. Sort of similar standard kind of thing. We're seeing our, keystone ability. That's the main theme of the hero talent is being buffed. So again, for Slayers, it's obviously all about execute. So a nice 20% there. And then your executes from sudden death have a 10% per chance of overwhelmed on the target to trigger a Slayer strike at 100% effectiveness. So it's helping feed the roundabout loop of the Slayer strikes, building up the stacks to then be able to do the execute, and then that stacks up to 3 times, then feeds into the Blade Storm, which does extra damage because of you get the idea. So it's really gonna help feeding that circular loop even harder. So that's really cool. But again, as this does really well for Fury and really brings back the flavor and the familiar gameplay loop from Season 1 Dragonflight, where it was all about raging blows and all about execute damage, and it was really good. The problem with this as well is it's also doing the exact same benefit for Arms, and so I really do think, given the current situation, we're going to see Arms be top dog for next tier. So unless if some substantial changes happen, I just don't see a situation where it's not going to be Arms in both Mythic Plus and Raid again, to be perfectly frank. But nonetheless, for the 4-piece, the Arms version is about Overpower and the Fury version is about Raging Blow. But again, these are increased by 20% respectively. And then Overpower / Raging Blow have the 2% chance per stack of Overwhelmed on the target to trigger a Reap the Storm at 100% effectiveness. So again, you're just getting more Reap the Storm procs, and Reap the Storm is the little mini Blade Storm that you do. That basically just spins around, does some AoE damage. So it's a nice free proc, which is kind of cool, I sort of suppose. But again, the problem you'll notice here, especially when you're comparing Fury and Arms, is that Arms is already getting more value from executes in general, given the execute phase and how the Arms version of Juggernaut is increasing damage, whereas the Fury version of Juggernaut is only increasing crit chance. So that's the biggest issue we'll find with this, is that for all the benefits of being able to say, hey, Fury is really good now because we get to really emphasize execute again, it's increasing the damage for it, it's looking all good and hunky-dory. The problem therein lies, actually, if I just go to single target, this will be easier. The problem therein lies is that although we get to double dip and now have 2 executes because we're using Vicious Contempt to make Bloodthirst and execute, and then we get the actual execute where we can stack up our Ashen Juggernaut, get some really good crits on execute. That's all well and good, but the unfortunate reality is for all of that, Arms is just going to compound even more, because instead of getting some benefits from execute based on crit chance and massacre and all that kind of stuff, Arms gets all of that, but gets to double dip, given that their version of Juggernaut is increasing damage done, not crit chance. So Arms' execute damage profile is going to go out the wazoo with this particular tier spec. So if I had to hedge my bets and place some predictions, 100%, I think you'll see Arms as the DPS spec to go to for both Mythic Plus and Raid. And I think you'll find it will end up being Slayer for Raid again, just like it is now, and Colossus for Mythic Plus, just like it is now. But either way, as much as I am slightly sad because it would be cool to see Fury come back in some capacity, still plenty of time to change in terms of class balance, all that good stuff. Nonetheless, that's where we're sitting at the moment. I'm looking forward to it. I actually really am excited most for the Colossus tier set. That looks really fun. Let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching. Peace.